In this space, we've gathered on the homelands of the Lekwungen, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. Before there was a building here, a city here, there was a Gary Oak meadow ecosystem. Before colonizers brought their English words, this place carried the sounds of the Lekwungen language, Lekwunginum. As lovers of poetry and the sounds that words make, I'd like to make a language acknowledgement tonight and offer you the Lekwunginum word for land of the family. That also happens to be the name of the new, well, thank you, Dan. Oh, wrong one. It was new in 2018, the library on Menzies Street. If you still refer to it as the new James Bay Library, here's your chance to make 2026 the year you start calling it Shwenghuang Tanguch Library. Shwenghuang Tanguch, the land of the family library, which is such a beautiful name. So it's just sounds put together. If you can say Schadenfreude, you can say Shwenghuang Tanguch. Planet Earth Poetry is committed to making space for First Nations voices and celebrating the poetry of First Nations poets wherever possible. Sorry about this limp microphone here. Thank you. We now have both Joseph Danderand and Janina Curtin booked in 2026 with more to come, thanks to a special sponsorship from Victoria Arts Council. Thank you to our other sponsors, the Capital Regional District, the Writers' Union of Canada, and the League of Canadian Poets. And thank you again to Russell Books for this venue. You've probably heard about drastic declines in arts funding. Many long-running reading series across Canada have vanished because the money it takes to keep them viable has vanished. Planet Earth Poetry has served the poetry community for 30 years. We pay poets for their creative work product. We assist with travel. We offer honorariums. The society has expenses, and we don't want PEP to vanish. So we've launched a 30th anniversary fundraising campaign called 30 for 30. You can find details on our website and in our Monday newsletters. Please join the campaign if you can and donate to help us thrive for another 30 years. During Planet Earth Poetry Week, we open the Russell Books washrooms downstairs for you during our readings, well, during the break. They're in the far corner, so basically where the card racks are, if you just went down the floor. So if you need to leave during the reading, please use the elevator back this way, but during the break, we will turn the escalators back on for you to access the washrooms. So, I am now going to start with our first reader, the person who's the reason I write poetry, and the first artistic director of the Planet Earth Poetry Reading Series, Wendy Morton. I'm going to finish reading some more that day. You can sit down, I'm going to read a whole bunch of good stuff back here. Wendy and Yvonne Blomer received permission from PK Page to name the series after her famous glosa, Planet Earth. And that's how we came to have our name, which used to be Mocambo Po when we were here at Blanchard. Wendy is the author of 6 books of poetry and a memoir called 6 Impossible Things Before Breakfast. And I think you're still doing 6 a day, aren't you? Yeah. Wendy worked extensively with Indigenous students on the Elder Project, which produced more than 20 chapbooks. And she was a founder of Random Acts of Poetry. In 2019, the Capital Regional District designated Wendy as the Poet Laureate of Juan de Fuca. Wendy's the recipient of the Order of British Columbia, the Governor General's Meritorious Service Medal, the 2010 Spirit Bearer Award, and she's an honorary citizen of Victoria and the honorary ambassador for the Federation of B.C. Writers. So I welcome Wendy to the microphone to kick the evening off.
Thank you, Ms. Fong. Welcome, Ms. Wendy. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased to be here because it seems like a long time since I have been. And so I have a few poems to read to you. One which I think is my most famous poem. If I had a name like Rosie Fernandez, I would wear gardenias and orchids in my hair. I would buy some hot sauce called Jump Up and Kiss Me. I would offer it to strangers. If I had a name like Rosie Fernandez, I would know how to tango. I would tap dance on sidewalks. I would fall in love insistently, spend hours in cafes with a broken heart and good coffee. Oh, if I had a name like Rosie Fernandez, I would know it. The dining room of the Empress Hotel is serving the Titanic's menu, and I say to the guy beside me, if you eat it, you sink. Consommé, eels, codfish, jelly salad, cranberry flambé. He's wearing a t-shirt that says older than dust. And we start talking about home milk delivery in glass bottles with cream on top. And suddenly I'm in South Bend, Indiana, all braids and buck teeth, eggs like sticks, legs like sticks. Early morning, mounting morning doves and morning Midwest heat. The clank of glass bottles of milk, cream on top, that I grab off the front porch, right into the Wheaties, and I'm probably not supposed to, given the whole list of not supposed tos I grew up with, including not smoking candy cigarettes before noon. Well, if it was summer, I would grab one while I was reading Nancy Drew on the back porch at, say, 11:30 and pretend that I was a real detective. The other not supposed to was listening in on the party line, which I always did, imagining that the boring conversations would trail off into the truth, which they rarely did. Like the black and white newsreels at the Colfax Theater, guns, peace talks, China in distress, soldiers running at each other, big tanks, blood, Korea divided, just wonderful music. And we decide that we're both older than dust and glad at least to have missed the Titanic, the sinking, the meal. Quick to the heart. Her face is the poem's mirror. Her hands become kayaks, parrots. She gives shape to the air with this singing calligraphy, Bear is crossed arms. Fear is a fist to the throat. Dream is 2 fingers quick to the head. Peace is a Tai Chi move. Pain is quick to the heart. Thank you very much.
Come again. Thank you, Wendy. Anytime you would like to read, there's a place here for you.
Yes.
All right. Our second reader is Leanne Boschman. Leanne has always loved the music and mystery of poetry. Besides publications in journals and anthologies, Leanne has 2 poetry collections, Precipitous Signs, a rain journal, and Here at the Crux, as well as a chapbook, Household Dangers. Leanne was an artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry for a year back in 2021 with Zoe Dickinson. Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you, Rhonda. It's really an honor to be included in this event. It's so exciting to see you, Wendy. It's been years and years. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing, and I really enjoyed my time. It was briefer than the others, but they said I can have 8 minutes to read. Just kidding. It was right in the middle of the pandemic. And Planet Earth Poetry had pivoted really quickly to Zoom. And so most of the time that I was co-artistic director was when we were on Zoom. And I'm going to say it was amazing. I think it's a testament just to how vibrant this community is, that people would look forward to those Friday nights, and there would be, you could almost feel this buzz through your computer screen of the excitement.
And there they are.
And there they are, hello. Anyway, so yeah, that was special. And the poetry, the magic of it really transcended the technology and everything else. And I can see Zoe there, and I just want a reminder of the time we were Zoom bombed. And there are things you can't unsee. And we recovered, and I felt like we were super poetry secret agents or something, because we got it all going again, and it was all good. But so I thought I would just read one pandemic poem. I promise I won't read more. I think we all like that it's in the rearview mirror. When it started, I was still living in Vancouver, and in my neighborhood was the famous pink building with the gelato, the 238 flavors. So I used to sadly walk by there, and this is a poem about that. La Casa Gelato, April 2020. Though the awning above these bubblegum colored walls still proclaims 238 flavors on location, now a metal barricade is drawn over our indulgence. I recall summer nights, families flocking in front of display cases, giddy kids up way past bedtime, couples nuzzling one another's necks while grandparents shuffle to, oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. All that licking, sampling, and so much gladness gathered in a pink embrace. Let me taste yours, the refrain of the place. While white apron servers dispense small portions of possibility on tiny spoons. To no one I whisper, gelato. Those 3 opulent syllables, how a sugary orb floats closer to parted lips. The cold, sweet second, then icy slippage as tongue and throat join the revelry, but I taste only regret for my hesitation. The times when I wanted to try a new flavor, Spanish saffron or gorgonzola and garlic, but stuck with maple walnut. Jasmine plum would be perfect, I think, as I pass by this shuttered threshold on a pandemic afternoon. Its confections unattainable behind the gray corrugated door. Then with choices shrinking every day, I head home to the savor of solitary dusk. Just one more pandemic memory here. We used to spritz the mic when we did get back together that first fall. And it was kind of an awkward and embarrassing time in some ways. I don't think it really helped anything, but it was good for some comic relief sometimes. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so just another connection with Planet Earth Poetry, an earlier time for me when some of us poets met at Rhonda's before coming to Planet Earth Poetry, and there was Mike Bond and Bora Levin and Wendy who were part of that, and we would eat soup at Rhonda's table and share some poems and then come to Planet Earth Poetry. And this is one of the poems I remember working on at that time that they're, you know, they helped me with my words, and it's Midwinter Reading List. And it references the Russian poet Marina Tsvetaeva. Tsvetaeva's words taste of cinders, imploded years, each line a ladle. Come sip here, night drifter, fellow migrant, outlast these famine months. A musty songbook bought for only pennies at a bazaar. Tonight my own song drowned out by raven on a stark limb of arbutus. Tsvetaeva's black-eyed child crying. A list of flowers for an extinct perfume. Small world porgonia, drooping trillium, thread-leaf sundew. Ask what else may have vanished by the end of the year. Invitation to a banquet, candles snuffed at midnight. Wisps of winter's fables float out the window. Far in the back, a table set for those whose inheritance is dust. Quick, find a birthing guide, all of us in this passageway together. Devise a language to paraphrase these nascent hours after we are brought forth to this solstice sunrise. Thank you. And just one more. And this is from my chapbook that was launched in November with JackPine Press, I should say. And it's also a New Year's poem. Magic Lantern. The man sitting beside me at the New Year's party is learning Korean. He shows me the characters for earth and heaven on the cell phone he cradles like a magic lantern in the palm of his hand. Then genie-like slips inside a ninja village, bounds across terracotta roof tiles, cartwheels down a narrow lane. Should I tell him that I sometimes disappear in a crowd when the trace of a poem lures me away? Would he join me in sampling overheard words like bonbons from a Venetian bowl? Perhaps we could muse on how this glass globe on a window ledge filled with vertebra of small sea creatures or two budgies that the host's children have named Cake and Dolphin could all find their way into a stanza. Later on the balcony, emboldened by an incandescent night sky, we could flail at this piñata moon to see what other metaphors might spill out.
Thank you, Leanne. In 30 years, we have lost poets from our community. So you mentioned Devorah and Mike, and there's Paul, Judith, Jane. So if you have someone, just think of them, imagine them here listening to poems with us once again. Next up is Daniel G. Scott. Very formal in your bio. Daniel has published 6 volumes of poetry, including Travels with Altoma and Aftertime. He has several chapbooks, has published individual poems in collections, and has numerous academic publications. Writing has saved his life more than once. Daniel was the 3rd artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry from 2015 to 2020. Thank you for your hard work.
Wow, what a crowd. This is wonderful. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for the online listeners. it really is amazing to see all of these people who we've traveled with all these years through poetry together in one place. I was just talking to Andrea before we started. She's one of the owners of the store, and thanking her for us using it. And she was like, wow, look at all the people. So way to go, team. I thought for a little fun tonight, I'd do a little journey through some of my books, one poem from here and there. And I'm starting with this poem called Mice Music. I wrote it at my first Patrick Lane retreat that I went to. And it was the first moment when I thought, maybe I have enough imagination to be a poet. The mice make their music on small lutes, old walnut bowl sounding boards, whisker strings. But sometimes when they break, night forays are required to steal strands of blonde hair from that boy sleeping one room over. A team effort of biting, cutting, carrying, but always a worry for the cat who materializes from nowhere to disturb their desire for madrigals and reels on period instruments properly tuned. Then I wrote a book called Gnarled Love, which was an attempt to explore the impossibilities of love. And I've picked this one poem out of that collection called Fragility. Fragility is a state one gets to live in. Fragility is a state one gets to live in. Unfortunately, it lacks borders, spills like coffee from a tumbled mug across rooms and lives, burns, stains. After a while, like anywhere, fragile becomes familiar. The cracks, part of the landscape. The stains, ordinary, necessary, as if being partially broken is what one is, has always been, will be, fragile, a crowded state, yet solitary. Then I put together this collection that I called Random Excess, and in the middle of it, I wrote a couple of political poems. And oddly enough, they were written in 2016-17, they're still true. This is called Ode to a Liar. Let someone sing praises to the one who cries lies against those who tell the truth. Let someone shout hurrah to the one who twists words, calls others what he is. Let someone dance in joy for the fake man who attacks to cover his frailty, his emptiness. Let someone remember and shout, lies will not be contained. Their power devours days, burns the tongues that spawn them. Let everyone celebrate, dance, shout, sing. The time of lies will run out, and those who call darkness light will soon know they have lost all their sight. Then I worked on a collection that I edited called Voicing Suicide, which grew out of some academic work that I do with a colleague who's here from Australia tonight. And she wrote the afterword in the book. So if you want to get that part of your book autographed, she's the person to talk to. This particular poem is called Self-Murder, and it has a headnote in it from a trans woman, B. Scherer. I wrote this poem and didn't know what to do with it because I echoed what she'd said in a speech that she gave. And I sent it to her, and we ended up in quite a long correspondence, and she really encouraged me to publish this poem. The headnote reads, I was murdered many times. I do not ask for sympathy. I ask for respect and action. B. Scherer. I am, that one said, a suicide waiting to happen. I have been murdered many times already, wounded with many blows, torn, assaulted, raped, and claim the right to make that one said, the murder complete at my own hand in my own time. There are those who desire to stop me, take from me my own hands, add wounds to wounds again and again to keep me from dying. I only know, that one said, I do not want more taken from me or added on, not pity, not shame, nor control of my death. I have been murdered enough already and will complete the murder of myself when I choose. Be sure. And the last one I'm going to read is from After Time, which was, strangely enough, an exploration of time. It's called, it's a liminal poem. I wrote it during the time that I was retiring and taking over Planet Earth Poetry, so my life was full of transitions and change. This poem is called Betwixt and Between. The threshold is not what I imagined, wall wide thick, one step over into another life. It is stretched across months, from what is here to an unknown there. I wanted a door, a frame, lintel, handle, lock and jam, got endless liminal space, got a breathless empty, a disquiet whisper with a still voice. Had to wait some more, halted in mid-step. I lean and lean. The betwixt does not compress. The between elongates. Days go by, light to dark, to light to dark, and still my step remains suspended. Thank you.
Thanks for reading Mice Music. I remember it was a prompt and you wrote that in about 10 minutes and we were all jealous because it just seemed like it came out of nowhere. This perfect little poem with the whiskers. Loved it. We have one more reader before the break, and that is Anne Hopkinson. And I think Anne and Daniel are responsible for the time when the society was formed. So just keep that in mind and all the paperwork that went into that. Oh, Anne was the second president of Planet Earth Poetry Reading Series Society. She writes of her time in Algeria, Rwanda, and the Dominican Republic, as well as about her love of nature and human nature. Her work appears in chapbooks, anthologies, and journals, and has won the Victoria Writers Society Creative Nonfiction Contest, the Canadian Stories Poetry Prize, and more. Welcome, Anne.
Well, I try to watch the news because I think it's important to be informed, even if it makes me sick to my stomach sometimes. And but what really ticks me off are those stories that are important that have disappeared from the news. So here's one of them, On the Incoming Tide, with an excerpt from Sabbath's 2001 by Wendell Berry. Birds hasten on prevailing winds from Africa. Under a sliver moon, a billion stars, flocks navigate north. 1,000 miles on the wing, over desert hills, over the coast, and out to sea, night flyers. The poor, scrambled in poverty, did not succeed. Migration then, go find a life. They fly from home, like songbirds, warblers, harriers, and cranes. Teenagers, young men, and families gamble migration. Here is where they will come, the outlanders, across the Strait of Sicily to Lampedusa's shore. They will find a boat, pay a smuggler's fee, repeat a prayer, hold close small bundles, small children. What's one more risk in a life of danger? One night on the sea's callous currents. Doomed, damned already as they sail from Tunisia, a leaky boat, fickle winds, a rogue wave. Survival is a haven, a place to rest and thrive. On the sea, adrift between two worlds, migrants flee one and seek refuge in the other. They could capsize. Police could turn them back. Here is where they will come, the voyagers, to Lampedusa, a dream of safety, a possible future. Overloaded with orange life jacket men, panic erupts in a searchlight beam, a knife, a single shot. Smuggler at the helm, fear in every seat, but instinct is strong, hope unsinkable. Here is where they will come, the dead, on the incoming tide, near but not near enough. Like swallows, they swoop the waves. Like doves, they search for landfall. And this poem is another one from the news. It was inspired by 4 headlines in the Times Colonist. Forestry deferrals, 2.6 million hectares. 1, BC protects old growth trees. I am glad. Snowmobiles and Sea-Doos go first. Recreational vehicles sold to pay the mortgage. Then the family car. A few months later, the boat and trailer are gone. And finally, the pickup that used to pull them. No work, no need for a vehicle to get to work. The mill drops men like logs down a chute. No other jobs in a small town on the coast. 2, Indigenous leaders concerned about forestry deferrals. Yet it is right to halt logging licenses. 4 families lose their homes, leave town to live with relatives. One father, a scout leader, took kids to hike and camp in the rainforest. His wife taught yoga at the church hall, Hatha, on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Women of the town stretched and breathed together. The son, a goalie on the junior hockey team, the daughter in the school band. 3, negotiations for 2 years, cut block sales closed. I agree. 3 more families pack up and go. Saturday yard sales dot the street, but nobody buys or sells much. Shoplifting at Thrifty Foods is up. Carla's coffee shop closes. House of the Rising Bun Bakery cuts its output. There are no offers for the Chevron franchise for sale. Men head into the forest for firewood. 4, designated areas: Fairy Creek, Walbrand Valley, Clackwood Sound. 11 priority areas. More will be added. The school loses a teacher. The church serves more free lunches. Jan closes the bookstore, moves south to a bigger town. Another dollar store opens. No trucks deliver logs to the mill. No men sweat on the green chain. No planners or graders work with wood. They wait for a good fishing season of rich tourists. Hope fishermen arriving will outnumber loggers leaving. And I am truly glad we are saving the old growth trees. Let's take a drink. Now, you can't tell it from those 2 poems, but I have quite a sense of humor. But I try to rein it in because publishers want serious poems. But of course, humor does leak out onto the page. And this one, I think, is a partial parody of The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. You all know it. The Vow Not Taken. 2 men appeared in the marriage wood, and sorry I could not marry both and be one bride. Long I stood and looked on one as deeply as I could, then picked the other. But what if I had married Dave? Been a dentist's wife, led a tennis club life. What if I lived in his heritage home? Brass plaque at the front door, all those rooms of velvet drapes and turkey rugs, even portraits up the staircase. What if his family finally accepted me, good enough for their society? What if his mother admired my garden? Or maybe she would have given me her gardener's contact number. Yeah. Likely his father never would have let me steer the boat. But I could have married Dave, that soft voice, those brown eyes and perfect teeth. I might have enjoyed his mild, predictable lovemaking, his calm belief that he was right. We could have built a life together, day after day after day, until we both died of pernicious prosperity. I am telling this with a sigh, years and years after. 2 men appeared in the marriage wood, and I chose the wild and spicy guy for love and sex and laughter.
Okay. Stephen? Okay, Stephen, I think I'm going to change the order because I don't see Kieran right now, okay? So, there she is. All right, okay. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you have lots of time to chat afterwards as well. It's an extraordinary amount of work to put a reading series together, and the work behind the scenes, the grant writing, all the applications, travel arrangements, booking poets, vetting poets, coordinating everything. So we thank our artistic directors and the presidents of our society. And the fact that we're a society means we are eligible for more grants. And also, if you make a donation, you can get a tax receipt. So that's one of the very top benefits of having a society. So it also runs with lots of volunteers and lots of other people who we are going to celebrate later on in the spring because they are an important part. They're called the B's, and they're also a very important part of keeping this running. But tonight is about our directors and presidents. And next up, we have Kieran Regier. Her cult life was a finalist for the Victoria Butler Book Prize and the Relit Award. Disassembling a Dancer won Raven Chapbook's inaugural contest. She's a former poetry editor at the Malahat Review and hosts the Poet Laureate podcast. Kieran is co-editing After, Poems in Dialogue with Zoe Dickinson, which is forthcoming with Caitlin Press. She's the current artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry, and she's also the current Poet Laureate of Victoria, but you know. Kieran Regier.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here and supporting poetry and supporting our series. I am very honoured to read with these poets who have all served Planet Earth Poetry. Thank you, Rhonda, for hosting tonight. Rhonda built our website besides doing a lot of other things at the beginning days of the series. It's still going. Our website is still going. You did a great job. Wow, I went downstairs to try and find some of my books to read, and the one I want to read from is sold out. Okay, so I'm gonna read you this really strange poem. I was going to chicken out, but I'll do it. Okay, it was chosen for the 50 Women Over 50 issue of Prairie Fire, this special double journal issue, and it's called Seining Rites, R-I-T-E-S. Seining is like the Scottish folk practice of putting a blessing at a person or a kind of ritual purification, and you know, if you use smoke, fire, texts when you're using water, it's called illustration. You'll hear a few Scots Gaelic words like diesel and withershins, which are clockwise and anti-clockwise, and una benye, which is Scottish for juniper. I'll also mention dowsing, which is like that weird practice of finding water and the things cross, yeah. And I'm also going to attempt a Scottish accent when I hit the lines by the other character in the poem, which is my great auntie Janet. So, okay, here we go. It's going to be a wild and woolly journey. Sailing rights. We begin with West Coast juniper in place of una benye, harvested without using iron on a moon day, then dried for 7 in the sun. Just a second. The recording was paused. I'm going to start again. Sailing rights. We begin with West Coast juniper in place of una benye, harvested without using iron on a moon day, then dried for 7 in the sun. No where a wee sprig will take fire, says great auntie Janet. So I hang a buried frond above the mantel. She hobbles after, a stoutly 5'2", her shotgun as a walking cane. 'Tis not unsafe if you're already dead, she sings. I pry batteries from fire alarms, and she acts out shooting them off the ceiling. We bunch scaly branches into stainless steel pots, ceramic bowls, my wok. Of course, her hands pass right through, but I ghost her actions. Thumb an equal, armed X above each vessel, croon the words best I can, and set it all to smoke on the axis of each room. We turn diesel through the piney fumes, toss needles and salt, place a blessing at each bed, at the threshold of every doorway, and thrice before the altar to my mama. Janet hacks heartily, fist thumping her chest. Mind the smoke dinna get you, laddie. Soon I'm cuffing strong, and the air is near eaten. Widdershins to banish, she says, and so we work counterclockwise from the front door, slide the windows wide, and as the past flies out with the smoke, the morning traffic pours in. Isn't easy in a city to find a march stream, one crossed by both the living and the dead. Auntie Janet yammers the whole way about dowsing in the highlands in her nana's bygone days, only done by an unlettered man. And you're ahead of a lettered woman, she shrills, stabbing a finger right through my breastbone. The rods X their yes at Bowker Creek, so we scoop 3 cups of water for lustration, screw the jar lid tight. Back at home, I set my mother's photo before the unlit hearth. Janet tells me lustration with forspoken water will turn any curse, so I chant the words and drop into the bowl the painted stones, blood, swan, crone, plink, plink, plonk. The sacred stone by the rosemary bush glosses black when I splash the blessed water. My hands look like my mother's hands. As I brush droplets from my fingers, as I toss hair from my shoulders, my body is her body. Sailing with fire sounds dangerous, but Janet Kafours, when I suggest a permit, says we only need ourselves to work with the earth. White oak and rowan couldn't be found, so we light driftwood, invoke the sacred trees, sing from our bellies to call the spirits close. We're wearing white, our feet bare, locks unbound. Janet's never looked more spooky. I offer a snippet of hair to the coals, and using barbecue tongs, pass the talisman through the flame. Moss agate, green as my mother's eyes, from east to west, burnishing the grief. From north to south, I chant the words, then X the curling smoke. When it's cool, she guides me place it on the sacred stone and smash it with a rock. Knew her death and her mother's death will not be your death. And I wash my palms with ash. Aunt Janet says, and remember, as you go upon the earth, leave no trace, do no harm. Then she departs, and the white smudge of her face fades like fogged breath on a window pane.
Thank you, Karen. I wanted more. I was waiting for the next poem. Our next reader is Stephen Ross Smith, who is a poet, a sound poet, a fiction writer, an arts journalist, and arts activist. He is best known for his Fluttertongue poems, which have been published in 6 volumes. One of them, Fluttertongue 3, Disarray, won the 2005 Book of the Year Award at the Saskatchewan Book Awards. Stephen served as writer-in-residence at the Saskatoon Public Library. He was executive director of the Sage Hill Writing Experience and was director of literary arts at the Banff Centre for the Arts from 2008 to 2014. He was appointed Banff Poet Laureate in 2018. He founded and performed with Duct, an improvisatory sound and music ensemble, and was also a member of the sound performance ensemble Owen Sound. Stephen is the current president of Planet Earth Poetry Reading Series Society. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. It's an honor to serve as president of this fine establishment, shall we say. And though I'm a latecomer to Victoria, it has become a poetry home for me. So I'm grateful for that and happy to serve. So poetry for me is kind of an experiment and an adventure. I sort of think of it as a kind of sculpture. So I've chosen 2 pieces that perhaps will demonstrate that. The first one's from a manuscript in progress called Petal and Fracture. Say I matter, I master, though these days seem narrow inside a wide, wild game. An old forgotten trail, overgrown, aged, clotted with border, order, lies, lines, sticky in knotted, thin blankets and tents. Confess, plead just like this, suffer, linger, inhabit aches, lineage, acreage, appraised, parceled, shelled, held, matter chafed and papered, a bride's belief hides its worth our wildness. Muster, scrub the word, tilt and stir, etch it, elide, parlay, a seer, I, you, us, intent. I write your name, but I've sworn off myself. Who's in disguise? Diggy, my shell game inventing the one, the nobody to know without knowing, gnawing, hope. A fila, scribbler finds to amuse, to fuse, to blur, nonsense. Who judges? Verse as vista, it's viscera, it's terra. terror, terroir, now soils low futility, a future in go forth, spin lines, scrawl, scratch. I ride and grind, le tour des mots, ear-tongued, pissed up, attend the gnarly marathon's geared grimace race of strain and glide. I to you, subvert the quick din, quiche of cliché, egged ego. Avert the cinch, the clinch, be barren, juiced, elide, the jouissance, les plaisirs. Mastery's a mystery, searches the elusive track, descends at pace to the horizon, smoke waning, crumpled before our eyes, erasing before our clatter. Earlier this, I guess it was it the past season or the one before? Anyway, writer named Shane Book read here, and I attended his workshop as well. And Shane really likes to come at poetry through some kind of inventive, constricted, or all kinds of doors to give him a kind of an unusual access. And so I wrote a poem in response to his poem, which is called Dad Bod. And I kind of took that poem and kind of put it through a food processor, a meat grinder, some other processes, an anagram generator, whatever I could do to kind of muck things up, shall we say. And this is what came out. So this is a response poem to his poem and to his techniques. It's called On Me. I want to be a happy type of way. Are my birthdays coming? I'm past midlife, inside the moment braid. Are the animals extinct? Will celebration make a happy king, a thinking king for a day? Kings need no vote to think, to rule. Top dog or parliament or citizen, robed or robbed, must live. Some say parley. I've seen a hand's closed fist. It's cruel display. So rock court's counter-argument, man. Dribble deft, shoot the hoop, slack not, chalk the actionable ague, outfox raccoon mask cosplay dudes. Be acute, astute. Stutter not. They heard us. Say we're easy loads for the alg, the arg, the ack, the ack. River dams, deforests, pipe trenches. They hear us too. Our silence, our noise. Trash bandit, muscle man says we're ack, algorithms, slack liberationists. We're waterboarded, carpet bombed, wagered. We're cage pacing, ducking the shooters in the maddest range, shooters at the intersection, shooters at the midsection. The grouse, wolf, and wolverine, hunter scoped, snipered, stag, trophy for the walls. On me, shooters for the house. In the mad west, you must live. Allons, allez, allied, find safer ways. I want you to be live, happy, me too. Birthday cake slices, quaint wants. Thank you.
floating, rocking from the word play in the first poem. It's just had me swaying. Thank you. Our next reader is Zoe Dickinson. She has published 2 award-winning chapbooks, Public Transit and Intertidal, Poems from the Literal Zone. Her work has also appeared in anthologies including Worth More Standing, Poets and Activists Pay Homage to Trees, and literary journals such as Existere, Prairie Fire, Contemporary Verse 2, and the 2024 Montreal Prize anthology. Her first full-length collection, Staff Picks for Invertebrates, is forthcoming from Guernica Editions in 2026. Zoe was the artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry first for a year with Leanne Boschman, and then ran the series by herself and with the help of Duke the Wonder Dog until the end of 2023. And we couldn't do any of this in this space without you. So thank you.
Sit. You sit. That's a good boy. Hi everyone. This is so lovely. And I'm so glad that Wendy could be here and that all of our people could be here. It's so exciting. A lot of my poetry would not exist without Planet Earth Poetry, including all of the poems that I'm going to read tonight, which, well, it's all 2 of them. I'm going to read a really short poem, and in the grand Planet Earth Poetry tradition, I'm going to read it twice, and then I'm going to read a longish poem. And they're both from my new collection, which is available to pre-order on the Russell Books website and at Guernica Editions website. So the first poem is called January, and I thought it would be appropriate because it is January. January, dusk, dog ears the day before the end of the chapter. January, dusk, dog ears the day before the end of the chapter. And the next one I'm going to read is set here at Russell Books. It's called An Incomplete Catalog of Avian Incursions into Russell Books. 1. Feathers. White tufts resist the broom, escape dustpan in brief vertical vortex. 2. Nesting season. The skylights reek of fish. Seagull broods mule all afternoon. Add authenticity to nautical history and stories, and atmosphere to horror and paranormal fiction. 3. Sleepover. And then there was that time a gull spent the night, leaving fecal reviews on select books. Familiarity breeds contempt, so I imagine gulls innocuous, but confronted face to beak at eye level on a Monday morning with the wild, hungry bone and blood of him, I back away. 4. Treadmill. Or that other time, disoriented or just stubborn, the gull spends 20 minutes hopping down the up escalator. 5. W's. A yellow warbler appears in the fiction and literature section between Wilson and Windley. Silent and inscrutable, slightly out of alphabetical order. 6. Crow. Leanne Varys, local author, shows up with books for our consignment program in full crow, complete from beak to tail feathers. Black plumage protrudes from elaborate waistcoat and top boots. The bulbous eyes of his mask, opaque as he signed copies of his book, Oh, to be Human. True story. 7, starlings. Speckled invaders infiltrate the warehouse, brought here by Shakespeare enthusiasts, determined to fill Central Park with every bird mentioned by the bard. 100 starlings loosed in 1890, now 200 million. Still, apparently, literary in their tastes. One morning, a skitter in the heating duct becomes frenzied flapping when the furnace blasts. We remove the silver casing, and out flies a starling, satin breast, the color of evening. 8. 8? Yeah, 8. Pigeons. So many pigeons. Strut in through sliding glass doors as if they own the place. And maybe they do. I have never met our landlords. So that's, well, only at 5 minutes. I have time for Wendy if you want more poem, if you guys are on board. So I will read Where Not to Pick Up Chicks at a Bookstore. Diet and nutrition. She doesn't want you to see her there, perfecting her disappearing act. Science fiction. Dreaming of a future that doesn't include you. Self-help. Mind the gap between the life she lives and what she thinks she deserves. Philosophy. Trust me, there are no good Heidegger-themed pickup lines. Quit being a waste of her time. That's a Heidegger joke for this. We're looking forward to read Heidegger. Gardening. So many handy places to hide a body. Romance is a lot to live up to. Don't approach unless you can promise happily ever after. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, Zoe. When you start giving writing workshops, you have to use that as a prompt.
Yes.
Our next reader is Michelle Poirier-Brown, who is a Métis poet. Her poetry appears in numerous magazines and anthologies. Michelle's debut book, You Might Be Sorry You Read This, and her chapbook, Intimacies, were both published in 2022. Michelle was the first president of Planet Earth Poetry Society when it officially became a society. Thank you, Michelle. Hello, Zoom people. Love the Zoom. Oh my gosh, there are so many of you. Danse Kiwao, Mio Tagasan. Good evening. I'm going to read a couple of recently published poems. The first one was published last year by the League of Canadian Poets in this chapbook, Splendor of Wings, edited by Claudia Radmore, a friend to many of the people in the room, I believe. Friends of mine know I talk a lot about self-sovereignty. And the story of Penelope in Homer's The Odyssey shines for me like a beacon of self-sovereignty. To set the scene for you, at this point in the story, Odysseus has been gone 20 years. Penelope is waiting in their palace on Ithaca, but
Over 100 suitors have moved in, eating her food, drinking her wine, eyeing her bed. They think Odysseus is dead. They want her to choose one of them. She stalls by saying she'll decide after she finishes weaving a burial shroud for Odysseus's father and spends her days at a vertical stone-weighted loom, also called a walking loom. But Penelope has two secrets. One is that every night she unravels what she wove that day. The second is the power of the oak tree bed Odysseus made for her as a wedding gift. Unraveled after reading Robert Fagel's translation of the Odyssey. The noise of them, the carousing, goblet-raising, smelly, smoky noise of them all day. I focus on these threads. The flax is from the northeast fields. I walk there in the mornings as far as the cliff, refurbish my authority by looking to where you are not yet. Trace the horizon, island by island, to set my will. My eye and my silence are my last strengths. Time sharpens a blade. I am left defending us with thread. Pray your father does not die and rush my hand. While he lives, I weave a patternless white, walk the invisible journey I need you to complete. As long as there are carcasses to roast, I can yet afford devotion. The pace is half the trick. Too slow, and one or another of them will take his eyes off the singers, dump the woman from his lap, to rise, examine the cloth, run a finger over my work, his nail pricking at each weft thread as if counting. I arrange my face and stand implacable as thread made steadfast by stone. This kingdom weighs heavy, and I mine dignity and credibility for coin, buying my way through the press of men, their eyes black with wanting, their mouths jealous, their appetites mounting. They intend to deplete me, contend to defeat me. They eye my pace on the shroud, even as they press their faces against the necks of women we enslave. It is a contest of measure. My deft work against the still sheathed sword. They think I've given up. No longer wait. Do not know. My bed still roars your name in dreams. Your scent still heats my sheets. No being naughty, Daniel, no being naughty. I'm also grateful to have been published last year in the Douglas College magazine, Event. I wrote this poem recently, but the child in the poem is now 35 years old. It is useful to know what a winking eye teacup is. Lipton winking eye teacups were promotional items from the 1950s and 60s, the kind of collectible you could get by mailing in box tops. They were amusing, with a face on one side. When you tilted the cup to drink, the eye appeared to wink at you. 2 Lipton winking eye teacups. When my daughter was 2, I used to seat her on the kitchen counter while I cooked. It was just the 2 of us. We ate simply in those days, mostly brown rice and codfish, kale. We were content. It was a 1-bedroom apartment in the basement of a house I owned, but couldn't afford to live in. My queen bed was in the living room / kitchen / hall. Her crib in the bedroom, space to play. 3 20-somethings who worked in a restaurant rented upstairs. We owned few things. For toys and toddler clothes, I scoured the want ads, garage sales, and good neighborhoods. We had a set of dishes that matched, bought in Chinatown, celadon, with images of carp raised in the glaze. I prized a set of 4 crystal whiskey glasses and 2 Lipton winking eye teacups, a man and a woman, a gift of whimsy from my mother. The male cup sat on my desk and held paper clips. The woman sat on the counter with tea. My daughter's fingers, so tiny, nails thin as paper, skin still like roses, reach with the grace of a swan lifting her head. Then a flick, and a wealth of sentiment broke on the floor. The wink, a shard now separate from the smile. She turned her wide blue eyes to mine. I replied, "You are my everything." Hi. Didn't ask for my turn.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd read your version of the Odyssey. Even better if you could read it all. Our last reader tonight is Yvonne Blomer. She is the author most recently of Death of Persephone, a Murder, which is a poetic noir mystery rooted in myth and the ongoing violence against women and girls. An excerpt won the Gwendolyn McEwen Poetry Prize in 2021. She has edited 5 anthologies, including the celebrated eco-poetry triptych, Refugium, Sweetwater, and Sublime, as well as Hologram, homage to P.K. Page. Yvonne served as ARC Magazine's Poet in Residence for 2022 and 23. With an MA from the University of East Anglia, she teaches immersive poetry workshops online. Yvonne was the artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry from 2009 to 2015, and she was also Victoria's Poet Laureate. I don't know who's writing these bios, but they're missing a bit. You're too modest when you submit your bio.
Hello, everyone. How's your energy? Need to stretch? Oh, stretch, breathe. Hello, online, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. A long evening. Someone's taken the seat. There is a seat here if anyone's dying back there from Wendy. I'm going to read a few of my poems, and then Rhonda and I are going to read a poem that Wendy and I wrote together many years ago, just to close us out. I always think I'll come up here and start off serious, and this doesn't happen. I'm a goofball at heart. Barfly. After Robert Bateman's long, light polar bear. Brawny one, you lean like some bloke at the bar. Nose lifted to catch the scent of a bearded seal breathing a mile offshore. Maritime bear, your moans and chuffs blubber breath. Padded paws hold you to ice. Ice, the hard stool you balance on. Air swigger, you whiff bourbon in spilled motor oil along the Arctic shore. A sweetness you cannot resist. Styrofoam crisps, plastic Twizzlers rust from a car battery at the local dump. This want could kill you, you short-eared giant, you hunky boar, you statue carved from melt and salt. What will you binge on when winter does not come? Light is elemental as fur, you yellowing ice flow. Sun will melt you. Goofball at heart. I have an anthology coming out and hopefully launching on March 21st called Sublime Poems for Vanishing Ice. Oh heck. I'm going to read a new poem. It was a little scary. So when Wendy asked me to take over Planet Earth Poetry, I said no. I had just, not that long before, had a little boy who was born with special needs. And then a friend of mine said, oh, but Yvonne, it would honor Wendy. So, no, it wasn't you. So I changed my mind and said yes. And so my son grew up in a world where his mom went out every Friday night. Now he's an adult and he says, Mom's going out. So here's a poem for Colin. On listening to canon and gigue for 3 violins and continuo in D major by John Pachelbel with Jean-Francois Pellard and Orchestra de Chambre Jean-Francois Pellard. The poem's actually called On Listening. Inside my son, there is a voice, a canon of voices, the trill of 3 violins. Notes rise. Quietly, I listen as he sings out the names of his people. Spectrum labeled, syndrome born, he giggles. He thinks he's so funny. I record him, send his song to the friend whose name delights. It goes like this: low, medium, spread out, squeaked. I will demonstrate. I will use John Barton's name. John, 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 John! The name is a song. 1 more minute, the name. Tomorrow, tomorrow, the name continuo. He is non-verbal labeled, though his no a clear note. No, he will not use his communication device. Figure it out, he's saying. Repetition, repetition blurs. He is 3 violins. I am the joyous listener, also the long, low note in the background, sometimes bereft, those minor keys. Just now, he's an adult. Just now, born, nasal tube fed, first taste of yam shriek, first falls bruise, an entire song. Each long, lingering note begins anew. He goes on. What spirit? What spirit? I sit and listen. He chats to himself in a far room, a record of words, people, objects, places. Soon he will graduate. This inventory, groundwork. Daily I find new ways to get out of his way. Note by note, his rising song. What is it called when the notes glide smoothly along? Some form of release, bow and strings, their own things. It's true, he often needs a guide, tactus, the steady beat of meds, a calm voice, a driver. Yet he slides along, aces the day's trials, from one to the next, his people, spotters of sorts, metronomes, letting him conduct or have his solo moment, hit or miss notes. Who cares? My son skips and trips along. Principal sound, he is 3 violins. His voice, a name, a song. Thank you. So Rhonda and I are going to end by reading a poem.
Oops, where do you want me to stand? Oh, I need a third page.
Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Catherine Owen, who's a force in Canadian letters. And she did a book called The Other 23 and a Half Hours. And it's like everything you didn't do in your MFA. So for all the young poets and young writers out there, this book is really great. And she has a section on running a reading series, and both Wendy and I wrote a small piece for this. And I'll read you. Running a series involves being on the ball most days and having both a long-term vision of the coming year and a week-by-week idea of who is coming and what those poets need as far as funding, accommodation, pickup, dinner, and other details, ... So now Kieran McGeer is doing all that. Yes. And the publisher had everyone add on things. So this is a poem that Wendy and I did together. Okay. It's called Live Interview. I went out to Wendy's for lunch last week.
I invited Yvonne over for lunch.
Look at this garden, I said. How long have you lived here?
For 42 years.
We picked lettuce and kale from the garden.
I made a potato salad, everything from my garden.
We talked poetry at the dining room table after calling Noel at Woolsack and Wynn.
We needed a copy of this new book, The Other 23 and a Half Hours.
This is poetry.
This is poetry.
We talked about planet Earth poetry.
We talked about Mokambo poetry.
Coming up to 20 years.
The poets who have come.
Anne Simpson, Gary Geddes.
P.K. Page, Patrick Lane.
The years of open mics.
The memories.
The people.
The friendships.
Wendy said,
you never know what's going to happen on a Friday night.
Will snow or fog ground the featured reader coming from the Okanagan or San Francisco?
Will the mic work?
Will there be singing?
Will there be dancing?
At Wendy's kitchen table, we talked about our mothers.
We talked about Yvonne's son. That day I drove to her place to read her a poem.
Wendy sat at my kitchen table and cried.
We talked about poems that make us fall in love.
Poems that make you want to sing.
We talked about pep and nights when there are glosas.
Or pantoums, sonnets, and haiku.
Or that night we all stood on our chairs.
Yelled the poems out to each other after the power went out.
Sometimes I wonder.
Sometimes I think the earth stands still for a moment.
Or it spins faster for those hours.
Wendy, what made you keep doing it?
A poem is the shortest distance between two hearts.
A poem is the personal made public.
Sometimes something happens when you read a poem out loud.
In her kitchen, on the counter, Wendy has a New Yorker.
Oh, there was that one that came last month with an amazing poem.
Sometimes I just don't like the poems.
Yeah, sometimes they're shit.
This one is so-so.
Let me read you this one. Goat Hour Gospel, such salvage.
Wendy read, just of the evenings about to move on, they appear.
Not as the apparitional deer.
Here and gone in the next moment without a sound.
But one by one.
Something happens.
Something happens when you read a poem aloud.
Something happens, then back to the garden.
Back out to show Rupert and Colwyn the garden.
They had come to pick me up. We were camping out in Souk.
Colwyn rolled down the hill of my garden.
Grass in his hair and his giggle.
I've never had a kid roll in my garden.
Wendy gave us zucchini, kale. We looked at her giant beets.
I dug up some potatoes for them to take too.
This is poetry.
This is poetry.
This day.
This digging in my garden.
This feasting from the garden.
This is the other 23 and a half hours.
Wow.